Hello, this is Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I'm bringing you a reading today of the Hebrunes, which are Hebrew letters that I have developed a system for reading as in the Nordic runes, but these are with Hebrew letters, and they have so many meanings that have developed over time and through my own sitting with them. So I'm going to use these letters, but I'm going to do 3 different readings today. We're going to do this on the theme of what is this Tekufah, which is this turn of seasons that's happening right now, bringing in for you. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to pull 3 of the cards from the Sovereign Oracle deck and let you choose which card is resonating for you. And then we'll do some Hebrunes and a tarot card as well, and we'll get into the readings. So let's start with shuffling up our Sovereign Oracle deck, and we're going to take out, like I said, 3 cards today, and we'll do 3 separate readings. I've taken some time to redo my altar for the Tekufah of the summer solstice in this hemisphere. That's Tekufah Tamuz, although we're not quite into Tamuz yet. That happens next week. Things are off a little bit in the seasons because of the extra month we had this year with the leap month of Adar 2. So we're almost at Tammuz. We have gone into the solstice time, and we have crossed over from the longest day to heading into shorter days, but on the other hand, it's still continuing to get hotter. This is a phenomenon of being in the northern hemisphere where we have the heat continuing to increase, even though the shortest night has come and the longest day has come. So let's pull out and see what cards we have today. So first one is Daydream. Our second card is Compost. And our third card is Ask. And we'll read each of these cards when we get into your readings. But in the meantime, let's take a little closer look. And you get to choose which one you'd like to see today: Daydream, Compost, or Ask. Which of these 3 words seems to be calling to you, or more than one, for this Tekufah Tamuz, the summer solstice time and the transition into this time of heat in our year? Are you sitting around daydreaming? Are you taking the time to compost? Or are you asking what you need to ask right now? So let's take a moment to choose. I'll put the timestamps down below, and you'll be able to find your reading directly from that link. And I will see you in your individual readings. Hello, those of you who are my daydreamers. This is our card today. Let's read it together. It says, cultivate aimlessness. Allow yourself to fantasize about the possibilities, even if they seem unattainable. Find a comfy spot. Let the project breathe itself into you. Daydream. It's a perfect card for this time of year where we are coming into these sort of warm days of comfort and feeling as if we have expansive time with these long days and these warm days, at least in the northern hemisphere. We've got warm days that are very, very long. So we have the space to daydream, and some of folks who are people who either teach or attend school, this is a time of year where there tends to be a break from school a lot of the time. And even those of us who are people who work in a job that isn't school-based, there are a lot of vacations that happen at this time of year. So we're going to start out by pulling out 3 Hebrunes. We're going to go with 3 Hebrunes today and see what 3 Hebrunes are coming up for you for this time of the Tekufah Tamuz. At the top we have the letter Dalet. I have two in my hand. They both want to come out. In the center we have the letter Samech, and at the bottom we have the letter Vav. Very nice. So just starting off at the top, the Dalet is the letter that represents a doorway. So some transition, we're in a liminal space, we're in that in-between space, very much the Tekufah, the transition between one thing and another, between the spring and the summer in this case, time-wise. But it can be a transition between any kind of thing. So it could be between one room in your house and another room, maybe between one season of a relationship and another season of a relationship. The Dalet represents that doorway through which we must travel, and it can be challenging sometimes to go through that door. The Dalet is the same letter as the Delta of Venus, which is that transition portal through which all mammals are born, generally, unless I guess you're C-section. But it's the vaginal opening. It's the opening through which the birth happens. So as we come through in the feminine divine, we're talking about birth. The doorway is a birth canal. It's also the letter that begins the word dal, which means humble, or maybe someone who's a little bit lowly. And that can indicate that it's important to remain humble when we walk through the doorway, whatever it is we're transitioning for, to be honest about how we have a certain will to walk through that doorway. But the doorway is given to us by the divine. The doorway is the transition space, that liminal space through which we must pass. And we get to choose sometimes whether we're going to walk through that doorway or maybe when we're going to walk through that doorway. But the doorway itself is coming from divinity. The Dalet is the number 4 in Gematria, and to that end it speaks to the 4 directions of north, south, east, and west, and the 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water, as well as the 4 letters of the divine name, the Yud He, Vav He, that word, that name, which means the becoming one. So we get to become. We get to be born into whatever it is we're walking through, walking into. We are becoming. We are becoming more of who we are. We are becoming more connected to the divine, more in tune with divinity as we pass through this doorway, if we can listen, if we can remain humble as we set off. So that's what's up right now. We're daydreaming our way through this liminal space, through this doorway, into the next iteration. In the center of our reading, we have the letter Samech. And Samech is a circle, and it speaks to that idea of cycles and seasons and circles. It means to be supported. It means to be surrounded with love and boundaries. And this is in the position in the reading of what is our challenge right now? What is our fear, perhaps, in this transition that we're going through with the Dalet? The Samech is the letter that in the Proto-Hebrew, back in the very, very ancient days, was a thorn. And you can see there's a little thorn at the top there. The thorn, so there's a challenge here. There is a necessity to set up good boundaries around ourselves, but they need to be permeable boundaries so that we can pass in and out, so we can let people in and out as need be. Like one might set up a hedge around a property, but then it has a gate that we let through that Dalet itself, that gateway. So boundaries are essential for support, to surround yourself with protection, and to surround yourself with love, to surround yourself with the love of the divine and with the love of those who you know care for you. And that may be the challenge here, is how do we set up good boundaries? How do we set up good permeable boundaries so that we know and are able to discern what to let in and what to keep out. And that right now, while we're daydreaming into our transition, is the challenge or the fear in our situation. We have the doorway, but we also have a good wall around our space so that we can see how things cycle through. This is about cycles and seasons. It can be corresponding to the wheel of fortune. So something is turning, something is changing. But how do we protect ourselves during that transition? How do we make sure that we have the adequate support? That we have the thorniness and the agitation that's necessary for us to be protected and also to spur our way through the doorway that is there for us. And our outcome letter, the final letter in this particular reading, is the letter Vav. And Vav is the letter that literally means and in Hebrew. So it's about connection. It's about this and that. It's about planting oneself firmly in the earth and reaching up toward the heavens, standing tall with a straight spine and connecting. It's also the number 6, so it's the 6th day of creation, which is the day on which all animals were created, including humans. So it could be about connection with others as well, a connection with the divine, but a connection with another human being. The Vav is connected to the month of Iyar, which just came last month, that month that connects Passover and Shavuot, liberation to revelation. So we have this idea of how do we transition between freedom and knowing. And that seems really appropriate with, again, more transitions here with the Dalet. And we're daydreaming our way through this. We're cultivating our aimlessness, but allowing ourselves to imagine the possibilities, finding a comfortable spot, and letting the project breathe itself into us, into the connection. Again, connecting with the earth, connecting with divine above. And you can see that on the Vav, there's this little tiny bowed head. If you're standing tall, planted in the earth, you've got this head at the top that is a little bit bowed. And that, again, speaks to that humility that's necessary for us to walk through the doorway, to keep our head down so we don't hit our head on the top of the door frame. The Vav was also connected to the sense of hearing in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, which speaks to all of the different letters and how they connect to time and space and body. So it's a peg or a hook. It's about hearing. It's about connecting to yourself, connecting to the divine, connecting to another. And again, that 6th day of creation. Interestingly, the Psalmic is the number 60, so it's like 10 times this. So we've got the straight line, which is the 6, and the circle, which is the 60. And so it's got about that 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. So it kind of has this idea of time spiraling around, and its connection multiplied times 10. So nth degree of connection in the Psalmic, that support, that surrounding. So it's interesting that we have those, again, magnified here with the 6 being about connection and creation of humans and creation of relationship. And then the 60, which is again about support and about surrounding. So those are magnified here in the reading. And we can dream our way into how we would like to see that connection show up in our lives. That's the whole thing about daydreaming, is that we can see the doorway is open here. And how do we connect? How do we imagine that support? How do we come into a feeling state of how we would like it to be? How can we imagine the future in a way that is bright and beautiful and loving and supportive? And that seems to be the job here, is finding that boundary. And we're going to pull out a tarot card as well. I have the Rider-Waite-Smith deck here. We're going to shuffle and get one card that will give us just a little bit more information about this idea of daydreaming and going through doorways and connecting with other. And we have the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords is the one who is rushing ahead. He's galloping, and he's got his sword drawn. He's heading off as quickly as possible. Is the sign that represents air, the swords of communication and thought. And rushing toward communication and thought. Maybe this knight is heading off right through that doorway, through that gateway, trying to connect, trying to speak and think clearly. Maybe a little bit brash, maybe a little bit rushing. I get the sense of rushing with this. The horse looks a little bit terrified. Where are we going? What are we doing? So there may be a little bit of a warning here too. Don't be so brash that you miss out on communicating effectively. Again, we got the doorway. We're dreaming. We're dreaming right now. We don't really need to rush. But when you do, think clearly. Think sharply. Use your sword to cut through any kind of garbage that might be there. Communicate effectively. Connect in a way that is appropriate. And find yourself surrounded with protection as you walk through the door. So for those of you who chose Daydream, this has been your reading for this Tekufah of Tamuz. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you may like and subscribe. And if you're interested in purchasing a set of the Hebrunes, we do have those available in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you here next time. Hello, card number 2, those who chose the Compost card. Let's read this together. It says, break it down into its elements. Let whatever isn't working become the soil for your next endeavor. Send it to the earth. Let it return to you with new vitality. Compost, very nice. So, compost, during this season, where we're taking the waste that we have. Things are maybe maturing very quickly and needing to be composted into the soil, literally out in the garden. That maybe things are hot right now and maybe they're rotting, and maybe metaphorically things are transitioning too right now. As we're going from one season to the next, there's some kind of things that maybe we need to let go. Let go of what isn't working. Maybe let go of relationships or job situations that are not working for you and compost those. Not to say that they're worthless, because compost has a lot of rich nutrients in it, and we can use those nutrients, again, for growth into the next endeavor. So send it down into the earth, whatever it is you need to release, and let it grow back up into a new thing. And that's where we are right now in this season with compost for you who chose that card. And we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today to begin with. See what further messages we have around that. At the top, we have the letter Dalet. In the center, the letter Ayin. Oop, and there goes our third one onto the floor. Oh, perfect. We have the letter Lamed at the bottom. Nice. All right. So interestingly, we had Dalet also in another reading today in the same position. And the Dalet is the letter that means doorway. It means something is transitioning, and that's exactly what's happening right now. We're in this liminal space between one season and another. And the Dalet is the letter that means doorway, gateway, also humility. So it's about remaining humble while we go through this. There's nothing more humble than compost. Compost is the most humble of all of the kitchen foodstuffs. It's that which has been something and is now transitioning into something else. So there's some kind of transition happening for you right now as you come through this season. It is the binary transformation of wisdom and foolishness. In the Sefer Yetzirah, each of the letters has a foundation or a transformation associated with it. And For Dalit, it's wisdom and foolishness. And I think of this in terms of knowing what is wise and what is foolish and where we are on that continuum as we pass through a doorway. And as we pass through a doorway, we often have to leave behind that which we cannot carry. If we think about Dalit as being a birth canal through which we travel, we can't take everything with us in our birth canal. We can only carry what we can carry, which is only us, really. I mean, we have to leave our placenta behind. So there may have been something that's been feeding us, and right now we need to cut that cord and compost it, send that back to the earth. So what is the wise thing to do here? What is the foolish thing to do? How can we determine which is which? And we get to do that by remaining humble, by stepping through the doorway and then seeing what's on the other side. Dalit is the number 4 in Gematria, and so it speaks to the 4 seasons and the 4 elements and the 4 letters of the divine name. That name, which means becoming, means being, having been, and being in the future. So transitions, all about changes and transitions as we go through. And what are we composting? What are we releasing here? The Dalit is affiliated with Mars in the sky, the planet Mars, which is often seen as a war planet. So there's some kind of conflict a lot of times. But Mars, I believe, was also a protector. And that's why Mars is a war god, because he protects those who are needing the protection. So there's that difficulty, that challenge between the idea of war and the idea of being protected or protecting others. We need to consider Dalit as both a birth canal, a birth door, and also a death door. And that's the perfect thing for compost, because we allow that which we're composting to go back into the earth, and then it transforms once it's in the earth into something that will help grow a new life. So a lot going on here with the composting and the transition and the liminal space of the seasons as you walk from springtime into summer, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, from fall time into winter. We have to leave behind what we cannot carry and allow to compost that which is no longer serving us. In the center of our reading, we have the letter Ayin, and the letter Ayin is the letter that means an eye. So it's both about being watched over by divinity, as well as seeing your way forward clearly. And this position in the reading in the center is the position of what is our fear or challenge right now. So our fear may be that we can't see where we're going. Our fear may be that we don't feel like we're being watched over by divinity, that we're alone in this. But the reality is we're never alone. We're never alone in this. The divine is always here. In fact, we are made up of divinity, so we cannot be alone. We are made up of the divine that watches over. And it is the number 70 in Gematria, and so 70 is this number that represents the final day of creation, the 7, times 10. So something is coming to an end, and that seems really appropriate for compost. We have something that is coming to an end, something that needs to be composted, and it's a big thing because it's 10 times 7. Something is coming to an end, and it's a little bit challenging. This is a fear that we have. Something is coming to an end, and it's hard. It's hard to let things go when we're not ready to let them go. Ayin is also about completion, as I said, but it's affiliated with the tribe of Dan. And Dan is the tribe which means judgment. So there may be some judgment that's coming with this ending. We have to discern, as I said, between wisdom and foolishness about what's wise to keep and what's wise to let go of, what's foolish to keep and what's foolish to let go of. And we have to make that judgment call. And it might be challenging to do so right now as we go into a compost state. And there's that chime that says, the divine is here watching over us, that random chime that I have on my phone that just goes off when it's trying to put an exclamation point on the thing that's being said here. We are being watched over by divinity. And we will know, we'll have the wisdom to discern we'll know. So even though there's a fear or a challenge around seeing our way forward and knowing what's coming next, we do have that within us to be able to see. And we do have that being watched over by the divine, that we are being protected. The Ayin is also the foundation of laughter in the Sefer Yetzirah. As I said, each of these letters has a foundation or a transformation, and Ayin is affiliated with laughter in the version of the Sefer Yetzirah that I read. And I love this because it says to me that when we can see what's coming, when we can see the end of the story, that we'll find joy, we'll find laughter in this. And that always makes me happy. It always gives me comfort to know. It's funny that it's sitting right on top of the eye on this hand as well, that we'll be able to laugh about it in the end, in that final ending with the 70 there, that we'll be able to see our way forward and be able to have a nice laugh about it when this is all done, when we've gone through the doorway and composted what we needed to compost and allowed the growth of the next thing. And our outcome letter in this particular reading is the letter Lamed. This is the one that jumped onto the floor. Lamed is the letter that begins the word Lev, which means heart, mind. It's an organ, but it's also, it's not just the heart as an organ or the mind as an organ, but together. They work together for discernment. And this is exactly the outcome we're looking for and hoping for here. That we have the ability to use our heart mind, to listen to our heart, and that will inform our mind about what to do. That we have a lev, a heart, that reaches up toward divinity for connection. And you can see this one looks a little bit like it has the earth going across and then a root going down and a sprout coming up, as if we've layered the garden with compost. And now roots are happening and sprouts are coming. That there's love here with our heart mind, that we have the ability to connect with another, with the divine, and with ourselves, with our heart as we come through. Once we've composted what needs to be composted, once we've made that discernment. The Lamed is the letter that represents the intestines in the body. And so it also has that sort of sense of discernment, that we take food into our bodies. And our intestines are the part of our body that knows what is useful and what isn't. So we get food in our stomachs, it goes down into our intestines, and our intestines pull out the water, and then it says this is some nutrients that need to come out into the bloodstream, and the rest of this is garbage. The rest of this is waste. It needs to be excreted. And I love that it looks a little bit like a digestive tract, that we take in stuff at the top and it processes in the center and then it comes out the bottom. That we are releasing that which is no longer serving us, just like this compost card is indicating. That we've got to have the discernment, and that we will have the discernment in the end. If we can listen to our heart mind, if we can reach up with hope toward divinity as we plant ourselves firmly on the earth, and listen to our heart and our mind, to be able to learn what we need to learn, and then turn around and teach what we have learned to others, that we'll have the ability to compost that we no longer need, and new growth will come from it. So such a beautiful reading, that we have this transition point, that we have a liminal space through which we are right now standing in that doorway, that we are having a challenge about seeing our way forward, and we will be protected and watched over by divinity. And in the end, we will have our heart mind know and give us the discernment to tell what it is we have to let go into compost so that we'll have new growth. And we're going to pull out one more card here from this Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck to give us a little bit more clarity about what you've got coming right now. And it looks like it's just this card sticking out. Oh, Three of Swords reversed. So this is perfect, because the Three of Swords is about heartbreak. It's about somebody being stabbed in the heart, and the rain clouds and the tears coming down. And it's reversed, which says to me this is maybe an internal wound that's happened to you. It's important to release it now, that we've had some heartbreak, and we can turn that over and plant it in the earth let the rain come down and wash things away. And that if we've had some heartbreak and if we've had some really challenging times, it's time to release whatever it is, break it down into its elements, let it go to the earth, and let it return to us with the vitality that our heart has been injured here. But it's really important to listen to it, to listen to that inner voice, to know that we're watched over by divinity, that whatever's coming to an end here with this stabby heart is also giving us a doorway, that these wounds are opening the space so that we can walk through into the next growth. Right now it might be challenging, but whatever isn't working, let it become the soil for your next endeavor. So for those of you who chose Compost today, this has been your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like and subscribe. If you're interested in buying a set of the Hebrunes with the booklet, you can find that link down below as well. And I'll hopefully see you here next time. Hello, card number 3. Those of you who chose the card Ask. Let's read this together. Requesting aid takes courage. Verbalize your need for support. Give someone the gift of being an important part of your hero's journey. Delegate it to your guides. Ask. So it sounds like it's important to speak out. If you need assistance right now, that it will be a gift to someone else and that your guides are here to help. Ask. Okay, so that's an important part of our time right now in this transition period, is to ask for, to get the courage we need, to ask for support, and to trust that our guides are here helping us out. Let's pull out some Hebrunes as well. I'm going to do 3 today. At the top of our reading, we have the letter Kuf. In the center, we have the letter Aleph. And at the bottom, we have the letter He. So the letter Kuf at the top of our reading indicates something is sacred here. That the asking perhaps is sacred. Kuf is the letter that begins the word Kadosh, which means sacredness or holiness, that which is designated for service to divinity. So something sacred and holy about asking for what you need right now. It's also the letter that begins the word Kof, which means monkey. So there may be some sort of monkey mind that's going on here, that we're grasping here and there and not being able to make a decision or not being able to get the thing done that we need to get done because we're not asking for help. That it's important to ask, that asking is a sacred act that we need to tap into right now in order to get done what it is we need to get done. If we're having some challenges verbalizing our need for support, it's really important, in fact holy and sacred, to ask for the assistance we need right now. Kuf is also the letter that begins the word klipa, which means shards or shells. And that speaks to a story that before creation, the divine tried to sequester themselves into vessels to make space for creation to exist. And those vessels were not powerful enough to hold the divine light. And so those vessels shattered out into the universe. And part of our work here on this planet is to find those divine sparks and bring them back together. But the shards of the vessels, which were also made of divinity, sent some irritation out into the world, maybe some agitation that allows us to understand the need for collecting the sparks, that there's some urgency around it, or some desire, that there's some discomfort in the world that says to us it's important to find those sparks. And so the agitation that comes with the klipa which can be sharp and difficult in our lives, are encouraging us to do the collecting of the sparks. And we can find those sparks in others by seeking for them, by asking for them, by asking our guides to show us those divine sparks and to help guide us around the shards that are uncomfortable, or using those shards to spark us forward. The Kuf is also the letter that begins the word Kaddish, which is the prayer for the dead. It's a prayer that we speak aloud in reverence for those who have come before us, but it doesn't mention death at all. So there might be something that we're asking for from our ancestors here, because we have that ask card, and because we're being told that it's important to ask for support, and our guides may be some of our ancestors here. That holiness, that sacredness is tapping into the ancestral realm and asking for support from those who came before us. And I say that in part because Kuf is also the number 100 in Gematria. And so it has this idea of things that are old, things that are much older. I affiliate it with the patriarch Avraham because he was 100 years old when Yitzhak was born. So he was already an ancestor when his son was born. And there's this feeling of reaching back into 100 years ago and finding the way to get the support we need from our ancestors. That seems to be what's up right now, a sacred asking that is coming to you in the form of this reading, asking you to ask your ancestors for the support they need to find the sacred sparks and the sacred shells as well, the shards of the broken vessels, and maybe bring some ancestral healing into your line that will help you. And there are a variety of tools to do that. The ancestral healing work is very powerful. In the center, we have the letter Aleph. And the letter Aleph is the mother letter of air. It is a combination of above and below. You can see there's a yud above and a yud below and a vav between. And that's saying that divinity above mirrors and reflects divinity below, and vice versa. It's connecting heaven and earth. It's the first letter also. It's the first letter, so it's the number 1. And we've got 1 here, and we've got 100 above. So just another manifestation or mirroring of above and below. The Aleph is the letter that begins most of the divine names. El Elyon, Elohim, Adonai, and also Adam, human, and Adamah, mud. So heaven and earth, again, above and below, this crossroads that we've come to where we have to decide what direction to go. And we know that the oneness is here, the oneness of the divine, and that we can ask what we need to ask. This position in the reading is a position of a fear or a challenge in our situation. So maybe we're afraid. Maybe we're afraid to ask from divinity the help we need. Maybe we're having a challenge with that connection of above and below. Maybe we're just having trouble breathing. I'm actually having a little trouble breathing right now. So sit with your breath. Sit with your breath. Take some time to breathe into the situation and find some clarity. Find some balance in your life. Asking, if you're having trouble asking from the divine themselves, ask the ancestors to help you. They are here for you. And there is inherent sacredness in that task. And at the bottom of our reading, we have the letter He. And the letter He is the first letter of the word Hineni, which means presence, or here I am, present and ready for service. Kuf being kadosh, meaning that which is designated for service. And then He here saying, Hineni, here I am, ready and available. So showing up is a big part of this. Just being present, sitting in meditation perhaps, breathing, reaching into your breath here with the Aleph, the mother letter of air. And the He is affiliated with the sense of sight. in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, each of the letters has a foundation or a transformation affiliated with it. And for Hey, it's the sense of sight. We're able to see at the end of this, if we can show up with sacredness, to breathe into the space and sit in presence, saying, I am available, we'll be able to see our way forward. And sometimes we have to say, here I am, ready for service, before we know where we're going. And ask for help. This is about being available. And in order to be available, sometimes we need to request assistance. This is about the divine name, the Yud-He Vav-He has two He's in it. And that says that presence is doubly important in showing up for divinity, just staying present. The Yud is a seed, the Vav is connection, but He is there twice, presence and presence. And so half of divinity is showing up and being there and being available and listening. It's the letter that is the number 5 in Gematria. So it can also speak to the 5 levels of the soul and the 5 fingers on the hand. So there's some action available here too. It's the letter that's affiliated with the month of Nisan, which is the first month of the year. So we have the number 1 with the Aleph, and we have the He affiliated with Nisan, the first month. So a new beginning. It's like the beginning of the year. It's the month where Passover happens. It's the month of spring. So some new beginning is coming in. The constellation of Aries is affiliated with the He, the head of the year. So the head, the beginning, the newness, availability for service, and a new beginning, something new coming in, and being present, remaining present, and asking for what you need. So beautiful reading. Find the sacredness in this situation and breathe into it. Remain available for service, to show up and begin the thing that you're being called to do so that you can see your way forward. Making sure you're asking from the ancestors for guidance. We're going to pull out one more card from our tarot deck. Give it a shuffle and we'll see if there's another piece of information to add to this already wonderful and beautiful reading about asking for assistance when we need it. There it is. We have the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Wands is the one who is in power. She is about fire and inspiration. She's sometimes seen as the witch of the tarot. She's got her cat down there at the bottom, and she's got lions on the throne. Lions that are representing, the summer, the Leo of the summer, but also just inspiration, fire signs, the constellation of Aries. She's got that sunflower in her hand. She's got all the power that she needs to do what she needs to do right now. And you can ask her for help. You can call on the Queen of Wands for help, for inspiration. Or maybe she's representing some ancestor of yours that is here to help you. But know that power is here. Know that your presence and your power are available for your asking. So tap into the sacredness. Breathe into the situation. Find your presence here and ask for the help you need from your guides, from your ancestors, from the divine itself. Give somebody else the gift of being an important part of your journey. Maybe those are the ancestors that you need to ask for, the guides. Maybe it's the Queen of Wands. Whoever it is, do the asking that you need to do to find the sacredness, to breathe into the situation, to come to presence, and find yourself available for service. And when you do, you'll see your way forward and know what's the next step. So for those of you who chose the Ask card, this has been your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like and subscribe. If you're interested in buying a set of the Hebrunes with the booklet that comes with them, you can find a link down below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you here next time.